He gave me flowers. I didn't know they were biomaterial. He kept letters. It turned out they were evidence. If you think you control your life, watch me burn everything to find one hidden answer. I never thought I'd be the villain in my own love story. My name's Emily Hartman, 24 years old, sitting in my childhood bedroom staring at a half-packed suitcase. The smell of my dad's stale cigars clings to everything. 3 weeks ago, I was hosting wine nights in my craftsman-style home with Ethan, my sweet, quiet Ethan who'd bring me peppermint mochas in bed, even when I forgot our anniversary. We met at UCLA during a monsoon. I was sprinting to class when my umbrella inverted like a dying bat. There, he was, this lanky math major with crooked glasses and a Patagonia jacket stretched over textbooks, held his own umbrella over me without a word, didn't even ask my name, just said, "The Keck building's this way," like some bashful trail guide. That was Ethan Walsh, always doing, never demanding. When Dad lost his job senior year, Ethan sold his vintage Star Wars figures to pay for my capstone film project. Proposed with my grandmother's ring, he tracked down through 3 estate sales. Said, "I like making your dreams real," when I asked why. But here's the poison seeping through our California love story. I started mistaking his kindness for weakness. The first time I mocked his Star Wars pajama pants at Chloe's rooftop bash, he just grinned and passed me another White Claw. When I forgot his 26th birthday because Madison's yacht party sounded more fun, he baked me red velvet cupcakes the next morning. "You're spoiling her rotten," my sister warned him at Thanksgiving. Ethan just shrugged, carving turkey with surgical precision. Happy wife, happy life, right? The table laughed. I didn't see his knuckles whiten around the knife. The unraveling began with the couch. Ethan's ancient corduroy sectional from his grad school days, the one with the coffee stain shaped like Tasmania. "It's embarrassing," I told him last February, scrolling through West Elm's mid-century collection. "Your clients see this when they come over." Ethan paused his Sudoku app, his nightly ritual since college. That couch survived my dad's chemo treatments. We watched the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy there when he trailed off, finger hovering over his iPad. "Exactly." I snapped my laptop shut. "It's a relic. We're not broke students anymore." Next morning, a $4,000 sofa arrived in seafoam velvet. Ethan helped the delivery guys maneuver it upstairs, his Stanford hoodie sleeves pushed up to reveal faded scars on his forearms. Burns from pulling me out of that car fire sophomore year. He caught me staring. "Looks great. He kissed my temple, Tasmania-shaped stain already hidden under a throw pillow, worth every penny. That night, I found him on the balcony, shoulders hunched against the coastal fog. Through the sliding glass, I watched him text someone, quick, furtive taps. When I stepped outside, he slipped his phone away so fast it clattered against the rail. "Everything okay?" I asked, tasting Malbec on my tongue. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Just work stuff. Harrison needs the Q2 reports by." I stopped listening, let him ramble about spreadsheets while the Pacific roared below us. The real tragedy? I thought I held all the power. 2 days later, the first envelope arrived. Thick ivory paper with embossed lettering. Walsh and Chun Consulting. Ethan's startup with his Caltech buddy. "What's this?" I twirled the grand opening invite, bemused by the geometric design. "Since when you have office space?" Ethan froze, spatula hovering over our Viking range. The scent of brown butter and thyme filled the kitchen. "We, finalized the lease last week. It's just a small suite near." "You didn't think to tell me?" The words came out sharper than intended. His spatula resumed its methodical circles. "You've been busy with the neighborhood committee. Didn't want to bother you." I stared at his back, broad shoulders tense under thin cotton, and felt the first icy trickle of fear. Since when did Ethan keep secrets? The neighborhood potluck broke us. Not the cheap Merlot or Mrs. Kowalski's tuna casserole, but the way the string lights made Ethan's wedding band gleam like a warning. He'd been quieter than usual all week, buried in late-night Zoom calls. I told myself it was just work stress. You're obsessed with that man's arms. Chloe giggled as we clustered around the fire pit. Her new boob job glinted in the firelight. Admit it. You only married him for the dad bod. The group erupted. I leaned into the laughter, the third margarita burning my throat. Best part? He's house-trained. I slurred, flicking a Dorito at Kyle's Tesla. Comes with mute button and everything. That's when I smelled his cologne. Ethan stood frozen behind me, a platter of smoked brisket in his hands. The backyard went quiet except for the hiss of propane tanks. I waited for his usual deflection, the self-deprecating joke, the awkward shuffle. Instead, he set the meat down with military precision. Kyle. His voice carried that calm he used during blackouts. You've got charcoal stuck in your grill vents. Let me show you. As he walked away, Chloe whistled. Damn. When Mr. Pushover grow a spine? The real gut punch came later. I found him in the garage, methodically organizing our recycling bins. His "I'm fine" voice made my skin prickle. Babe, it was just a joke. You're right. He didn't look up from sorting glass bottles. I am house-trained. Know what else? I can file taxes in 3 states, replace a water heater, track IP addresses. His hand stilled on a wine bottle. Funny how you never joke about those skills. I laughed nervously. What's gotten into you? When he finally met my gaze, his eyes were stranger than the night he pulled me from that wrecked Prius. Harrison's wife left him last week, took the kids. You know what he told me? The garage felt suddenly airless. Who cares about Harrison? A man's only as strong as his exit strategy. Ethan's thumb brushed the label off a Cabernet bottle. Our Cabernet. Turns out I'm better at strategies than you think. I woke up alone Sunday morning, found him at the dining table, chessboard between us like a battlefield. His queen had cornered my king in 7 moves. Since when do you play? I asked, throat dry. He slid a manila envelope across the board. Inside, divorce papers already notarized. A sticky note on our prenup. See Section 5B. You kept the couch, he said quietly. I kept receipts. The first night at my parents' house, I stared at the glow-in-the-dark stars still plastered to my childhood ceiling. Mom had kept my room frozen in 2016 Taylor Swift posters, a dusty prom tiara, the sequined homecoming dress I'd worn the night Ethan asked me to senior formal. Dad found me digging through the hall closet at 2 a.m., looking for something. Kiddo? Ethan's sweatshirt. I lied, clutching a box of old track medals. The gray Stanford one. Thought maybe I left it here. He leaned against the doorframe, the flickering hallway light carving shadows under his eyes. Your mother's been fielding calls. The Kowalskis, the Garcias, even that yoga instructor you used to. I don't care. The medals clattered as I shoved the box aside. They're just nosy. They're worried. His voice hardened. Saw Ethan at Lowe's yesterday. Bought enough lumber to build a deck. Or a coffin. My fingernails bit into my palms. Our backyard. Our anniversary plans. He's bluffing. He'll crack by Friday. Dad's silence said everything. At dawn, I texted Chloe. Need a favor. 3 dots pulsed, then died. When I called, her voicemail greeted me with a TikTok remix. It was Madison who finally answered, aying, "Oh my God, are you okay? We've been dying for details." Her voice dripped with champagne-fueled curiosity. Is it true Ethan hired that shark lawyer from the Billingsley divorce? The one who... I hung up. The temp agency smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. I perched on a plastic chair, knee bouncing as a receptionist named Sheila squinted at my resume. Says here you hosted parties? Sheila tapped her chipped manicure. Any actual office experience? I managed household budgets, coordinated events, handled vendor negotiations for. So, unemployed. She scribbled something in red pen. We've got a dishwasher position at Applebee's. Midnight shift. The fluorescent lights hummed. Somewhere, Ethan was probably charming investors with that quiet intensity I'd mistaken for docility. I'll take it. Dad drove me to the interview in his '98 Ford, silent until we passed Ethan's office. A sleek glass monolith with Walsh and Chin glowing in steel letters. Saw his IPO announcement. Dad muttered, "Smart kid. Always was." The second twist hit during my trial shift. A family of 6 left Mac, and cheese smeared on table 22. As I scrubbed, their conversation sliced through the clatter. "Mommy, why is that lady crying?" "Hush, Ava. She's just tired." But I wasn't crying. I was seething. Because in the reflection of a polished spoon, I saw my 16-year-old self, the state debate champion, the girl who'd mapped out her life in color-coded planners, now reduced to scraping cheese sludge in non-slip shoes. My phone buzzed. A calendar alert. Ethan's birthday, 7 p.m. Surprise him. The app still synced to his Google account. My fingers flew before logic intervened. "Meet me at our spot. Please." He replied in 90 seconds flat. "You have 24 hours to remove your things from storage. After that, it's landfill." Mom found me in the garage, sorting through Ethan's sealed boxes. "He dropped these off while you were out." The first box hissed when I opened it. Our wedding album, reeking of lighter fluid. Every photo surgically altered. My face blacked out in Sharpie. Our first dance replaced by a stock image of a tombstone. The second box contained his old Star Wars pajamas. Folded beneath them, the hospital bracelet from the car accident. My name faded to a ghostly smudge. The final envelope stopped my heart. "Aim." You once asked why I never got mad. Truth is, I did. Every time you mocked me, I built another brick in this escape route. Every dig about the couch funded the down payment on my office. Your jokes about my mute button taught me when to stay silent during investor meetings. You wanted a strong man? You created one. P.S. Harrison's sister is my new CFO. She plays chess too. Mom touched my shoulder. I jerked away, clutching the note like a grenade pin. "He'll come around," she whispered. Men always do. But the real tragedy wasn't Ethan's coldness. It was realizing I wouldn't have come around. Not until it was too late. That night, I Googled Walsh and Chin valuation. The number glared back. $14.6 million. My hands shook as I dialed the one person who'd know the truth. "Chloe, I need." "Oh, honey." Her laugh crackled through the speaker. "Didn't you hear? He's dating Harrison's sister now. Some finance goddess from MIT. Guess you were right all along. He does like strong women." The click echoed louder than Ethan's goodbye. The storage unit smelled like regret and mothballs. Unit 214B, our wedding date. Ethan hadn't even changed the combination. "You've got 1 hour," said the lawyer Ethan sent. Ms. Kim wore a pantsuit that could have armored a tank. "Mr. Walsh instructed me to document everything you remove." I flipped open the first bin. My sequined cocktail dresses still reeking of last summer's mojitos. Beneath them, Ethan's grandmother's silverware, tarnished and tied with twine. "He wants these." I held up a gravy-stained apron I'd never worn. "He wants you to want them." Ms. Kim didn't blink. Sentimentality's a liability. Per your prenup, the truth hit like a sucker punch. Ethan wasn't punishing me. He was erasing me. I found the keepsake box buried under ski gear. Inside, movie stubs from our first date. The broken umbrella he'd carried that rainy UCLA day. A dried gardenia from my bouquet. This stays. I clutched the box to my chest. Ms. Kim produced a document. Section 5B, subsection 3. Mementos from marital milestones remain joint property pending arbitration. He'd never. He did. She snapped a photo of the box. Mr. Walsh anticipates you'll attempt emotional manipulation. My firm specializes in neutralizing such tactics. The real twist came as I left. A black Tesla glided past, driven by the brunette from Ethan's Instagram. Beside her, my old Prada bag, now cradling a French bulldog in a cashmere sweater. The diner's neon sign buzzed like a dying wasp. I picked the 3 a.m. shift specifically. Less chance of being recognized. Until he walked in. Kyle slid into booth 6, reeking of bourbon and entitlement. Heard you're giving discounts to regulars now. His wedding band glinted as he tapped the syrup-stained menu. How about a personalized omelet? I gripped the coffee pot. Kitchen's closed. Come on, His foot hooked around my ankle. Walsh isn't the only shark in town. I could make things comfortable for you. The crash echoed before I registered throwing the pot. Scalding coffee pooled around Kyle's Gucci loafers as he scrambled backward. You crazy bye. She said kitchen's closed. We both froze. Ethan stood framed in the doorway, backlit by streetlights. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw his old tenderness. The boy who'd carried me piggyback through flu season. Then he turned to Kyle. Harrison's auditing your startup tomorrow. I'd sober up if I were you. Kyle paled. You wouldn't. I already did. Ethan's smile chilled the room. Funny thing about exit strategies, they work both ways. As Kyle fled, Ethan studied me like a failed equation. You're better than this, says the guy dating MIT Barbie. He placed a business card beside the wreckage. My contractor needs a receptionist. Health insurance. For a 1K. I don't want your pity. It's not pity. His gaze fell on my grease-stained name tag. It's a counteroffer. The contractor's office overlooked Ethan's old apartment. I wore Madison's borrowed blazer, chewing Altoids to mask the fryer stench in my hair. Ms. Hartman, the receptionist, eyed my thrift store heels. Mr. Delgado will see you now. The interview lasted 7 minutes. You're overqualified, Delgado said, tossing my resume aside. Ethan says you're ruthless when cornered. That true? Before I could answer, shouting erupted outside. A red-faced man charged in waving a foreclosure notice. You gutted my damn house. He slammed photos on the desk, warped floorboards, crumbling drywall. My kids got asthma from the mold. Delgado sighed. We followed your budget. You followed Ethan Walsh's budget. That soulless prick who... I'll handle this. The words leapt out before I could stop them. 20 minutes later, the man left with a compensation check and a painted-on smile. Delgado stared at me. How'd you do that? Same way I convinced Ethan to propose. I straightened the foreclosure photos. Find what they're ashamed of wanting, then sell it back as mercy. He hired me on the spot. The trap sprang at sunset. Ethan waited by my car, holding a chess piece, the Black Queen from our old set. Delgado's my biggest investor, he said. You think this is a fresh start? It's checkmate. I took the queen. Cold marble bit my palm. Game's not over. For the first time in years, Ethan looked at me like I was worth the fight. Delgado Construction's break room reeked of testosterone and stale protein bars. I learned fast, pour the black coffee bitter, laugh at the fart jokes, and never mention Ethan's name. My desk faced a cracked window overlooking Ethan's old studio. Every morning at 9:03 a.m., his Tesla glided into the Walsh and Chun parking lot. The brunette, Lena Chun, I'd Googled, always emerged first, her leather portfolio clutched like a weapon. You stare at that building like it owes you money, grunted Delgado on day 12. He tossed me a set of keys. Take the F, 150 to the Brentwood site. Inspectors are sniffing around. The job site was a half-built McMansion all warped beams and contractor shortcuts. I found the problem in the East Wing, load-bearing walls jerry-rigged with duct tape and prayers. Who signed off on this? I waved my flashlight at the shoddy work. The foreman spat. Your boyfriend's budget cuts. I froze. Ethan approved this? Walsh? Nah. The Ice Queen. He mimed Lena's razor-sharp bob. Said if we couldn't build a palace on a studio apartment budget, we'd lose the contract. My phone buzzed. A calendar alert I'd forgotten to delete. Fertility clinic consultation, 2 p.m. The walls seemed to breathe inward. The clinic waiting room smelled like sterilized hope. I'd come to cancel the appointment, but the nurse recognized me. Mrs. Walsh, we have your embryos on ice until... It's Hartman now. The words tasted like broken glass. I need to terminate storage. Her smile faltered. Mr. Walsh updated the paperwork last week. He's retaining custody pending court approval. The floor tilted. He can't. They're considered marital assets in California. She handed me a brochure with a rainbow-clad baby. Maybe mediation? I fled to the parking lot, colliding with a stroller-pushing mom. Her toddler stared at my smeared mascara. Mommy, why is that lady crying? Because I just lost children I never wanted. Ethan answered on the first ring. If this is about the embryos. You kept receipts on our kids? Static crackled. You told Chloe they were glorified petri dishes. Lena thought we should monetize the research potential. The world narrowed to his icy pragmatism. You're bluffing. Am I? A keyboard clacked in the background. Check your email. The attachment loaded slowly, a $250,000 offer from a biotech firm. Subject line, Walshchian embryonic algorithm study. I broke into Ethan's storage unit that night. The embryos weren't there, just moldering wedding relics and a sealed box labeled M's epiphanies in his architect-perfect script. Inside, every birthday card I'd half-assed, photos of me sneering at his Star Wars collectibles, a journal dated 2 days after our accident. September 12th. M laughed when I suggested therapy, said, Daddy issues aren't contagious. Burned the casserole she made, take out boxes and trash. She's scared. So am I. November 3rd. Found her Googling divorce lawyers. Left the tab open like a dare. Called Harrison instead of crying. Started the exit plan. February 14th. She mocked the roses. I memorized her laugh. It'll fuel me when I'm gone. The last entry stabbed deepest. Love isn't enough, but God, I wish it were. Tires screeched outside. Lena stood silhouetted in the doorway, her blazer swapped for SWAT-style tactical gear. Predictable. She tossed a GoPro to a lurking figure. Chloe, smirking beneath a black hoodie. Ethan said you'd go full Fatal Attraction. The camera light blinded me. He's pressing charges? Worse. Lena stepped over our mangled wedding portrait. He's letting me stream this. Chloe giggled, zooming in on my tear-streaked face. Who's the pushover now? M. The live stream went viral by dawn. Hashtag Karen vs. EO trended beneath clips of me sobbing in that storage unit. Lena's smirk weaponized into 1,000 reaction gifs. Delgado fired me via Post-it. Don't sue. I'll deny everything. I bought burner phones in bulk, scattering them like breadcrumbs. Only rats would follow. The third one rang at 3 a.m. Brentwood site. Bring a flashlight. The voice was male, digitally scrambled. Wear gloves. The half-built mansion loomed like a rotten tooth. I found the foreman's corpse in the master bath, swollen tongue protruding, wrists slashed with a utility knife. Fake blood pooled around a staged suicide note. Emily made me do it. Footsteps echoed upstairs. Lena descended the staircase, phone recording. Still playing detective. Hartman? You killed him. My voice shook. Why? Wrong question. She kicked the corpse's boot. Why'd Ethan kill him? The truth detonated slowly. Ethan's fingerprints were all over the budget cuts. My testimony could bury him. Lena tossed me the knife. Cut his throat deeper, or I leaked those clinic photos. I stared at the blade, thought of the embryos, thought of Ethan's journal entry about memorizing my laugh. Make it messy, Lena purred, or I will. The police found me covered in pig's blood from the Korean market down the street. I'd smeared it everywhere. Walls, ceiling, the foreman's overalls, while Lena screeched about commitment to the bit. You're insane, she hissed as sirens wailed. No, I pressed the bloody knife to my own throat. I'm method acting. Cops cuffed us both. Lena's phone malfunctioned, erasing the footage. My burner rang in interrogation. Ethan's lawyer, offering a deal, admit to corporate espionage, and the DA drops murder charges. Tell him I want face-to-face. I told Ms. Kim, or I'll start talking about UCLA. Ethan arrived at midnight, stubble-shadowed and reeking of airport vodka. We faced each other through bulletproof glass, his wedding band glinting under fluorescent lights. You kept it, I whispered. He rotated the ring slowly. Lena thinks it's leverage. I think it's ballast. The guard coughed. Ethan leaned closer. That night you crashed the Prius? I didn't pull you out. Ice flooded my veins. What? You crawled free on your own. I just carried you to the ambulance. His breath fogged the glass. You've always been stronger than me, Em. That's why I needed rules. Why I built walls. The guard announced time's up. Ethan stood, leaving his phone on the table. A single text glowed. Storage Unit 214B. Combination unchanged. They released me on bail. The storage unit now held one item, a dented firebox with our initials carved clumsily on the lid. Inside, a positive pregnancy test from sophomore year. Negative, but I'd lied to skip finals. The UCLA umbrella repaired with gold wiring, kintsugi style. A deed to the Brentwood property in my name. The final envelope contained a thumb drive. Security footage time-stamped the night of the foreman's death. Ethan arriving first, Lena dragging the body, Chloe planning the knife. A note in Ethan's handwriting. Checkmate only works if both players stay at the board. Mai Bunarang, Lena's number. You win, she spat. Ethan's dissolving Walsh and Chun. But know this, he's not saving you. He's sparing himself. I hung up and texted the only number that mattered. Meet me at the diner. He came in a hoodie, no lawyers, no Lena. We slid into booth 6, the same where Kyle had tried his pathetic power play. Why now? I asked. Ethan traced the coffee stain I'd never fully scrubbed. You finally started fighting for someone other than yourself. The waitress took our order. We didn't speak. Didn't need to. Outside, the neon sign buzzed a requiem for the people we'd been. Rain sheeted against the diner windows, turning the neon sign into a bleeding Rorschach blot. Ethan stirred his black coffee clockwise, the way he always did before exams. The embryos are gone, he said. I clutched the firebox between us. Lena's research. Shipped to Oslo. His spoon clinked like a death knell. They're studying how stress proteins affect cellular division. Our contribution could save preemies. The admission hung between us, grotesque and noble. I slid the repaired umbrella across the table. Why fix this? Same reason you kept the pregnancy test. He nodded at the firebox. We're hoarders of almost. The door chimed. Lena strode in, hair plastered to her skull, clutching a Ziploc bag of soaked documents. You sentimental idiots. She dumped the bag. Waterlogged blueprints of the Brentwood house. The foundations compromised. Whole blocks getting condemned. Ethan didn't flinch. We'll rebuild. Lena's laugh bordered on hysterical. I mortgaged my life for Walsh and Chun. And for what? So you could play house with the girl who treats you like a... Ethan stood abruptly. Enough. Lightning flashed. In that frozen moment, I saw it, the faint scar on Lena's wrist matching Ethan's burn marks. Partners, not lovers, survivors of the same silent war. The storm killed the power. We huddled in candlelight, the diner becoming a confessional booth. I took the blame for the Prius crash. Ethan's shadow loomed on the wall. You were texting Chloe. The memory surfaced, glossy nails tapping. LOL, guess who forgot our anniversary again? Before impact, Lena snorted. He bribed the cops with his trust fund. I drove the getaway car. I turned to Ethan. Why? You'd have lost the debate scholarship. He traced the umbrella's patched tears. And I needed you to need me. The candles guttered. Lena slid a USB across the table. The full Brentwood footage. Your move, Cinderella. Outside, a transformer exploded, plunging us into blackness. When the emergency lights flickered on, Lena was gone. So was the USB. Ethan pressed his car keys into my palm. The Benz is parked behind Denelli's. Registration's under your name. Running away? Finally running toward. He nodded at the firebox. There's a deed to a cabin in Big Sur. Needs work, but the foundation's solid. Sirens wailed in the distance. Closer. I found the cabin at dawn, its cedar planks warped but unyielding. The deed listed 2 names, Ethan Walsh and Emily Hartman. Inside, blueprints for a glass-walled studio, a stocked nursery, and our chessboard, queens still missing. Beneath it, a handwritten note. Ink. Build something that outlasts us. The final twist came via FedEx. A chilled container labeled biological specimens. Handle with care. Inside, 2 embryo vials and Lena's severed thumb drive. Her scrawl covered the customs form. Happy fucking rebirth. I waited for guilt, for grief. Instead, I felt the clean ache of a bone resetting. The burner rang as I hung the repaired umbrella by the door. Did you? Ethan's voice cracked. They're safe. I cradled a vial, watching the sunrise through embryonic frost. What now? Silence. Then the soft click of a chess timer starting. The cabin silence is different from Ethan's old apartment. There, quiet meant resentment simmering beneath video game sounds and turning pages. Here, it's the hush of snow burying tire tracks, of frost creeping over the embryo vials in their nitrogen tomb. I spend mornings chiseling ice from the generator, fingers numb through 2 layers of gloves. Ethan's blueprints gather dust, too raw to study, too heavy to burn. The firebox stays sealed under the bed, a landmine of almost memories. At night, I trace the cabin's foundation cracks. They match the scars on Ethan's arms, the ones he got saving me from a fire I drunkenly started. Or so I believed. Turns out we're both unreliable narrators. A week in, I find the ledger, buried under insulation rolls in the tool shed. Its pages detail every dime Ethan funneled here, construction costs, land, surveys, even the prenatal vitamins in the bathroom. The last entry chills worse than the blizzard outside. Final payment to Elsie, $1.2 million. Asset acquisition complete. Lena Chen's initials bleed through the paper. I picture her signing this with a surgeon's precision, carving her pound of flesh from our tragedy. The embryos weren't a peace offering. They were a receipt. The drone arrives during the season's first thaw, black matte, no markings, hovering like a vulture over the melting snowbank. Its payload, a single USB drive taped to a Ziploc of matcha Kit Kats, Ethan's grad school cramming fuel. The files are worse than I imagined. Security footage of Lena coaching Chloe on her testimony, spreadsheets tracking my Applebee's shifts, even screenshots of my Reddit posts, annotated in Ethan's cramped handwriting, self-victimization pattern, escalate intervention. I smash the drone with a shovel. Its camera winks red until the last spark dies. That night, I dream in equations. Ethan's voice narrates like a TED Talk. Love's half-life equals 8.76 years. Error margin plus or minus 2.3%. I wake clawing at the wall where our wedding portrait should hang. Fingernails scoring the lumber he chose to withstand hurricanes. By dawn, I've mapped the cabin's weaknesses. The north wall's untreated pine. The generator's frayed wiring. The embryo's tank tucked too close to the fireplace. It's not sabotage, it's quality control. Ethan trained me too well. The fire starts in the chimney. Old creosote meets March winds, flames licking the roofline with nostalgic fury. I save three things: the firebox, the repaired umbrella, and the ledger. Let the embryos burn. Let the blueprints char. Let the nursery's pastel wallpaper blister like skin. Smoke inhalation makes the walk surreal. I follow the creek downstream, ice cracking under boots Ethan bought for our aborted ski trip. Dawn stains the ashes rose gold. The USB survived. Of course it did. Ethan's final message plays on the library computer I bike to, stinking of soot and regret. If you're hearing this, the cabin failed. I designed 7 escape routes. You'll find them mapped in the firebox's false bottom. Lena thinks this is punishment. It's not. It's pattern recognition. You'll rebuild better. You always do. His pause lasts 3 exhales. The embryos, they're not ours. Lena swapped them during transit. Yours are in Zurich. Passwords are first kiss coordinates. Outside, snow resumes its silent conquest. I buy a burner phone with the last wet 20s in my pocket. Dial the number etched inside the umbrella's handle. 2 rings. A click. No voice, just the static whisper of someone waiting to outlast me. Zurich smells like money and disinfectant. I hike the clinic's marble stairs in stolen boots 2 sizes too big, the umbrella clutched like a scepter. My reflection in the lobby windows shocks me. Hair singed from the cabin fire. Jacket streaked with generator grease. Eyes hollow as the embryo tanks I abandoned. The receptionist speaks without looking up. Name. I slide the USB across her desk. She pales, fingers flying over her keyboard. Security guards materialize, but I'm ready. Let them drag me out. Let cameras capture the spectacle. Ethan taught me spectacle breeds leverage. They escort me to a vault colder than Lena's smirk. The techs avoid eye contact as they thaw the specimens. I memorize their lab codes. Dr. Voigt, Dr. Nguyen, Nurse Esposito. Names to weaponize later. The embryos glow under blue light. Microscopic galaxies suspended in gel. They're perfect. Too perfect. No Walsh cowlick, no Hartman stubborn chin. Just blank slates waiting for a lie. The real horrors in the paperwork. Donor IDs matching Ethan's journal entries from our worst fights. September 12th, November 3rd, February 14th. He'd harvested my resentment, cultured it into this clinical immortality. I sign the release forms with a tremor I pretend is frostbite. Outside, sleet needles my face. The USB burns through my pocket, not with Ethan's confession, but mine. The safe house reeks of Ethan's ghosts. Floorboards creak the way he did pacing during night terrors. I find his contingency plans taped under the sink. Escape routes, fake passports, a Glock wrapped in prenatal vitamin ads. His handwriting mocks me from a sticky note. Switzerland neutralizes all threats. I spread the Zurich files across the kitchenette. Cross-reference dates with Lena's travel logs. The pattern emerges in red ink and coffee rings. Each embryo corresponds to a Walsh-Enchen acquisition. Our DNA isn't the experiment. Our grief is the burner rings. Illéritati. On the 12th try, I smash it against the Swiss flag plaster to the wall. Shards rain down like the confetti we never had at our courthouse wedding. Dawn finds me at the Lindenhof, watching the limmat choke on ice floes. Tourists snap selfies where I plot arson. The embryos sleep in their portable tank at my feet. cheaper to destroy here than in the Alps. A child's snow globe rolls against my boot, St. Peter's Church under glass. I pocket it as collateral. Some debts demand childish symbolism. The blast radius surprises me. Embryonic storage tanks burn hotter than cabins, brighter than Prius Rex. I watch from the police barricade, face smudged with soot and stolen foundation. Interpol asks questions I answer with Emily Hartman's corpse. Let them dig through ash for a woman who died when Ethan learned to keep receipts. The snow globe survives. I mail it to Lena's Tribeca loft, postmarked from a village that no longer exists. Her response comes via billboard above Times Square. A Wall Shinchin ad featuring our embryos' ID numbers. Some fires fertilize. I board the night train to Genoa with a rucksack of forgeries. The umbrella stays wedged in a trash bin outside ETH Zurich, handle pointed northeast toward mountains that can't hurt me anymore. Ethan's final lesson echoes in the clacking rails. Love is just damage with better branding. Genoa's docks reek of fish guts and diesel. I rent a room above a butcher shop where cleavers thud through the night, their rhythms syncing with the phantom kicks in my abdomen. The pregnancy test glows positive under flickering neon, not a miracle, but Ethan's last chess move. He planted the embryo during the Zurich heist. I trace the dates back to our final diner meeting, to the coffee he stirred exactly 13 times before pushing the keys toward me. Morning sickness blends with the stench of offal. The locket arrives in a package of frozen sardines. Lena's calling card. Inside, an ultrasound image marked with GPS coordinates. My fingers leave bloody prints on the sonogram. The butcher's knife slipped this morning while filleting lies for the landlord. I follow the coordinates to a cliffside chapel. Our names grace a plaque beneath crumbling plaster saints. Ethan Walsh and Emily Hartman, united beyond mortal ledger. The dates are blank. Inside the offering box, a syringe labeled compound LCH7. Nightfall finds me injecting the cliff shadow into my thigh. Let it be poison. Let it be absolution. Let it be whatever ends the game. The compound unlocks memories that aren't mine. I see through Ethan's eyes the night of the Prius crash, my drunken laughter as I swerved toward the guardrail, his scream shredding his vocal cords. Feel his skin blistering as he reached into flames that I ignited. Worse, I witnessed Lena's betrayal from his perspective. Her scalpel hovering over the embryo tanks, voice clinical as she explains how grief makes better fuel than love. How she'll market our collapse as a resilient seminar for Fortune 500 couples. The vision's climax in a warehouse Ethan bought weeks before the divorce. Freezers hum with rows of vials labeled by date. September 12, 2016. November 3, 2018. February 14, 2022. Our entire marriage reduced to epithelial cells and regret. I performed the C-section myself. Rusty scalpel from the butcher shop, vodka for anesthesia. Phone camera live streaming to Walsh and Chen's investor portal. The thing I pull from my womb isn't a child. It's a translucent sack of stem cells throbbing with Lena's corporate logo. They find me in a Norwegian fjord, the snow globe shards glittering in my palms. Police lights paint the ice blood red as I carve the final coordinates into my forearm. Ethan's true gift buried in the cabin's foundation. The USB sinks slowly, bubbles rising like the champagne we toasted with on our fake anniversary. Deep below, the embryo's cryotank pulses like a jellyfish, its contents already seeding the seabed with our hubris. Interpol leaves when the northern lights flare. Green tendrils lick the sky as I bleed out quietly, the compound LCH7 sweetening my veins. Final thought. Ethan miscalculated. Love's half-life decays faster in sub-zero temperatures. The last shock comes post-mortem. My corpse twitches as the USB's encryption fails at 4:03 a.m. flooding dark web forums with footage of Ethan rocking a stem cell swaddled monstrosity in our would-be nursery, his lullabies a distorted loop of my laughter from the crash. Lena's comment under the viral video: client testimonials available upon request. But the true horror? The algorithm prefers this ending. Every ending is just the beginning of another story waiting to happen. Don't stop now. Click to discover more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat.